Hey everybody, alright, in this episode, let's talk about the Imagineering story, episode 5 and 6. I decided to combine this review. I wanted to combine both of these episodes because I feel like it really encompasses the Bob Iger era of Walt Disney Imagineering. I wanted to just sort of put them all together because I feel like it's really one story here with Bob Iger and his leadership in this certain era of Imagineering. So basically, these two episodes cover a lot of ground, and they get into a lot of interesting things. And one of my favorite parts about episode 5 was actually, the rebirth, the re-Imagineering, so to speak, of Disney California Adventure. I love, and again, it bears repeating, I keep saying this in so many videos, I love Disney California Adventure. I think it has a lot of potential. And the thing I love about DCA 2.0, which was officially relaunched in 2012, is that it really shows the potential that this little park has. And, in 2012, when they did, Buena Vista Street, and the New World of Color show, and especially Cars Land, it really showed that, the California theme isn't so bad after all. They can take the California theme and kind of take it at a different angle and still give us a lot of Disney while still staying true to that California theme. And they did that in spades with DCA 2.0, and it turned out phenomenal. And in episode 5, they really get into Cars Land and the creation of that land and the rock work and how they came up with the ride system, which was funny to me because they had a ride system with Test Track, but in the episode it seemed like they were really struggling with what kind of ride system to use, like whether a roller coaster, not a roller coaster. I don't know. It seemed to me so easy. So, I mean, come on. You already have cars going around a track at Epcot with Test Track. Use that. And they ultimately did, but it was just kind of funny to me that there was any sort of, debate about that. I would think that the Cars, ride system would have came first. They saw Test Track and got, oh, we can use Pixar cars and kind of overlay that, right? But apparently it didn't, at least according to this episode. But I digress. I mean, I really do love DCA 2.0. I thought they did a phenomenal job with everything they added and plussed in the park. They turned DCA they turned it from the ugly duckling to really a solid, very well done Disney park. Is it perfect? No. Is it on par with, Tokyo Disney Sea? No. But you know what? It's a good, solid, decent sister park to Disneyland, and I'm really proud of this little park, and I think it's going to get better and better as time goes on. So basically, aside from DCA, they got into, Disney's foray into China and Hong Kong Disneyland, and how they kind of started smaller with Hong Kong Disneyland and grew it out as time went on. In episode 6, they got into Shanghai. They spent a lot of time on Shanghai Disneyland and how they really respected the Chinese culture. And how they went into this, they didn't want to be we're just going to put a Disneyland in China and it's just going to be the way it's always been. They really made sure they were really respectful of the Chinese people and of that country and of that culture. And they really changed the way a Disney park is designed based on that culture. And Bob Iger kind of goes into that, saying how they didn't have the steam train. They didn't have all the Americana, like Frontierland and what have you. And I thought that was pretty cool, actually. I really like that. I like the fact that Disney isn't just going into these other countries and just building an American version of a Disney park. They're building the Disney parks kind of around the culture of where they're going. And I think that's really cool. I think that's really respectful of the home country that's housing this new park. And I think that Bob Iger, to his credit, did a great job at really respecting that. And I think he did a phenomenal job with Shanghai Disney. The castle, it's one of my favorite castles. It's absolutely breathtaking. So it was kind of interesting to see that whole process. Then they kind of get into a little bit about the plussing of some of the dark rides at Disneyland, like Peter Pan and things like that. How they're now utilizing, projection mapping and utilizing this new technology to sort of plus these old school attractions, which I thought was actually really cool and actually very relevant to today, because I just released a video a few days ago about the new additions, the enhancements coming to the new Snow White. Well, not the new, but the old Snow White dark ride at Disneyland, and how they're going to plus that attraction. So this episode, or these episodes, really touched upon how they're plussing these old attractions. It is kind of relevant today because we're getting, a new Snow White next year in 2020 here at Disneyland. So that was kind of cool. And they just really touched upon a lot of cool things about this modern era and how Bob Iger is really investing in these parks. Now, here's the thing: Bob Iger gets a lot of criticism, a lot of heat, for whatever it may be, maybe too many IP or whatever bothers you, right? But here's the thing: there's one thing about Bob Iger that I really, really like. He's not perfect, and he is very franchise focused. But the thing I like about his leadership is that, for the most part, he isn't shy about spending money on these parks. We saw with Michael Eisner that there were a lot of projects where they really skimped out, and really the funding for some of those projects, like DCA 1.0 and the Paris Studio Park, were really light, and it showed. Okay, let's be honest, it really showed. Bob Iger, whether it be Cars Land, whether it be Pandora, whether it be DCA 2.0, whether it be Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, Bob Iger spends money on these parks. He invests in these parks. I think Bob Iger is more long-term driven in terms of his mindset than Michael Eisner was, and I really like that about him. And again, I know a lot of people are probably going to comment and say, "Oh, you're just shilling for Bob Iger." I'm not shilling for him. I don't think he's a perfect CEO. But in terms of investments into these parks, I think Bob Iger has shown he's not afraid to spend money and go big. And I respect that. I like that. Do I love the fact that every single thing from Bob Iger's administration or his Walt Disney Company is an IP? No, I don't love that. I wish he would kind of go off into some original stuff, like, I don't know, like something that isn't based on a movie. But for what it's worth, the guy spends a ton of money on these parks, and I do love that aspect of his leadership. And in these two episodes, it really does show that he is spending a fortune on the Disney parks. And, it ended with probably the most expensive aspect of the Disney parks in recent history, which is Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and they really get into like the Rise of the Resistance, which looks phenomenal. I am so jealous of everyone in Florida who's gotten to ride that thing, but it looks like a next generation Indiana Jones adventure. And they kind of get into that, and they show some of the technology. I don't want to get too deep into that because I know some people haven't been on it yet, and I don't want to give any spoilers out. But overall, these two episodes 5 and 6, I thought were really good. A lot of people complained that they felt like commercials. I don't know. I mean, yeah, there was a fluff piece element to both of these, but I feel like the last few years, at least under Iger, have been very good for Imagineering. Again, there's going to be problems. You can point out certain things here and there, but for the most part, it's been a strong decade or so for Imagineering, so I really can't complain too much. But I really want to hear what you guys think about episode 5 and 6, which I consider basically the Bob Iger era of Imagineering. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think about Cars Land? What do you think about DCA 2.0? What do you think about Pandora? What do you think about all this stuff? Shanghai Disneyland. What are your thoughts? I would love to hear from you guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.